All right, looks like we're recording. Yep.
Good.
Good evening, Martin.
Good
New-
morning, John.
Newly appointed head coach of the Cologne Crocodiles. Congratulations on your new position.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It's gonna be GFL North again. Nothing new because you coached a lot of years in the North already. So um, happy to be back in the GFL.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm happy to be back. And I like the area there in Cologne and NRV, NRW, we call it.
Yeah.
Um, I always felt great there, and people they just have open arms, and it's really great being there and back there. And I'm looking forward that I can go to Cologne next week and start practice with the team.
Yeah, awesome. So next week you're going to Cologne. All right, cool.
Yes, yeah,
Um, Look, I started this thing with the podcast, and my first sort of question to every guest is, where did we meet first? And do you have any idea?
yeah.
All right, there we go. Good. Sometimes, sometimes where you think and where I think we met first is not the same. But here we go.
Yeah,
Let's see.
let's see. Yeah, I think we met first in the late '90s at an NFL Europe camp,
All right.
and I
Okay.
think it was in Düsseldorf.
All right. Okay. See, I don't remember that. I don't.
Do you remember? I think we met when Whitey Jordan hold his clinic about option. There was a whole weekend. There was a whole weekend. I think Galen Hall brought him in, and Whitey Jordan uh, was giving a clinic for one weekend and just option.
Hmm.
And I think this is the first time we met, or I met you
Ah,
there. I think this was our first time we met.
all right. I can't remember that.
when you thought,
Yeah. So where I thought, look, in our time when I was in the NFL Europe, you were the head coach in the first year of the German national team, and
yeah,
we didn't meet there. But that's where I think for me, I started knowing about Martin Hanselmann, coaching in Dusseldorf national team, all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. I think the first time we met for me was when I was in Dresden and we played you guys, the Würzburg Panthers. Is that correct?
yeah.
Yeah. In a preseason game. That, to me, I thought that was the first time we actually met.
Well, I think we met before.
Yeah. Well, there you
During
go.
your NFL Europe time, I think we met a couple of times.
Yeah.
I was there at practice
Oh,
many
oh,
times, uh, and I think we met there. But
maybe you say that. How about a national camp in Frankfurt or in
yes,
Dusseldorf?
yeah, I think
That's
so too. Yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. See, there you go. Look, um, I recorded the other day, with one of my ex colleagues for the Admirals. I
yeah.
didn't talk to him for a long time, and like where did we meet first, right? So it's I think it's an interesting concept because sometimes you met somebody a long time ago, sometimes a little bit not so far in the distance, right? So
Yeah.
um but now, yeah, okay, good. So this thing, obviously, I live in Australia, and hopefully there will be some people here who will be watching our podcast. So as you are well known in Europe, in the football crowd, is that, can you tell me a little bit about your past as a coach, and so that our viewers here get a little bit of an idea of who and what you are?
Yeah, for sure. I started playing football in 1982 here in Germany. We still played with five American players on the field per side, offense and defense. Um, and this is where I played is a little town here where I'm from, Rothenburg, and they call Franken Knights right now. And we are founded by a player from the Ansbach Grizzlies. He made his own team here, and then we started here in Rothenburg and played. And I played till 92 or 93, and then I start coaching in the youth team with Eric Grau. Some know them. He's a very well-known old quarterback, former quarterback of the Ansbach Grizzlies, and this is where I started coaching, and I found the passion. I liked it, and I coached more and more. And then I started coaching the Franken Knights. We made the GFL there, and somehow I make a lot of, or I still think that to spread the game is a big part of coaching, and the coaches are the people who spread the game and motivate players. And so I start developing coaches in Germany and have the coaches license system here, and I coach since 1994, I think. So that's a passion for me as well. And so somehow the AFVD asked me whether I could do this there, and I did it for the German Football Federation. And then we had a pretty successful year with the Knights, played the playoffs in the GFL, and the German Football Federation asked me to become the head coach of the national team. And this was very successful then. We won the first time the European Championship. At this time, we won the World Games. And and this is how I coach. Then I coached with the Düsseldorf Panther, with Cologne, coached in Nuremberg. So, and the last 2 years, I coached in the European League of Football, not very successful, but with the Stuttgart Surge, tried to develop a program there and tried to build up something. And now I'm back in the GFL, and it's great to be there. It's great to be back.
Yeah. So you bring up obviously your last 2 years in with the Surge, right? Look, I try to keep up with all football in Europe, and when the Elf was founded, I thought, well, this is a great opportunity for more players, more coaches, more opportunity, right? And they're doing a lot of things really well, I feel. Is the product on the field? What do you think? Is the Elf? Are there stronger teams, or how do you see that compared to the GFL?
Well, yeah, overall, I think they are. They have the best players, and they have very good coaches there. And it's a good league. It's a competitive league, and I think the idea was very good. And it's always tough to talk about that when you were not really successful, because the thing is, I think I was the only coach who really followed the rules about salary cap and all that type of stuff. And I'm a little bit scared because people put too much money in that. And it is a little bit like it was in the beginning of the GFL, when teams get bankrupt because they pay too much for players. And it looks great on TV. It is great on TV, and like I said, they have the best players, and they have good coaches there, and it's very interesting. It's fun. It's entertainment. But these guys really need to make money, way more than the GFL needs to do that. The GFL needs also a lot of money, but the expansion is so fast. They grow from 8 teams to 12 and now 17, and I feel it's a little bit fast, but maybe I'm an old German guy, and I'm the old traditional way. Hey, just invest a little bit and then get a base and then go make your next step. And like I coach, like I'm coaching, is just, hey, have that step and do this and that. And maybe there is another way. What is successful, that you put a lot of merchandise, you put a lot of colorful things into the TV, and people follow it. And the social media thing is a big thing in the league. And if it works, it's great. It was time to get a new league, because the German Football Federation was at that time really just not existed, just not existing. And the ELF just brought up a new product and pushed American football in a very positive way.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. See what you're saying is a product, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
there is from afar, I don't have weekly meetings or anything with anybody, but it looks like they're promoting a product. It looks like the league is doing a good job promoting all the teams, right?
yeah,
So it's everybody's working together for the promotion of the league, and it is not, look, I'm promoting the Lions and I'm promoting the Monarchs and
no,
it's more done together and to create a better product. And I
yes,
think that was ultimately the need, and everybody wanted the GFL to be better than what it was. And honestly, they could have been much better. And it's like we call like sleeping behind the wheel, right?
yeah,
They were the big dog, and they thought, oh, you know what, this is good, this is good. And then all of a sudden, bada bing, bada boom, and there is a new league, and they're taking over.
yes,
But so yeah, I thought last year with the two Austrian teams coming in, I thought that they were going to be really strong. The
yeah,
Raiders disappointed a little bit. I'm not sure why that was, but ultimately, the Vikings, they are a very, very strong team. And I thought if you add more Europeans to that, to what they already have, you add a little bit of spice from other Austrian players to increase your Austrian base, then you're going to have a very good football team. And it turns out, I was
yeah.
it was
Yeah,
good.
the difference here, John, is that the Austrian Federation, they allowed these two teams keeping their names and going into it. And
Mm,
Vienna and Innsbruck, both programs are great programs from the youth clubs, from the youth teams on.
yeah,
And this is what all the German teams couldn't do because it wasn't allowed.
yeah,
The German Football Federation was against the ELF, and
yeah,
when I started in Stuttgart, we said, "Hey, we take the Scorpions into the league," and then we had a big fight there, and it wasn't possible. And so they started a new franchise with the name of Search, and
mm,
this was smoothly in Austria, and I think in Italy it's the same, Switzerland the same, France the same, and
yeah,
this helps a lot, these franchises to do that, because Vienna and Innsbruck, they have great programs from youth teams on, and they start explaining and coaching football 10-year-old kids, and they're all at the same colors, and they're all representing the Vikings or the Raiders, and that's proudly of them, and this helps a lot. And that's the big difference, and that's why they are so strong, because they have a big resource where they can get players from. And in Germany, they have to really fight for the GFL, or they have to fight for the GFL players and all that. But like you said, it's the GFL was a sleeping dog, and they never woke up, and they never tried to promote football more. They thought, hey, it's enough what we're doing, and then, like you said, bomb, and the new league comes up, and it's a product. And um, but we never should forget that uh, the owners of the European League of Football are business people who promote a product and then they sell it. They did that in the past. It's their job. It's not that I say, hey, this is bad. No, it's their job to do that.
yeah.
And so, like you said, it's a product. It's no more like a federation or whatever. It's a product, and it's about money. It's a business, and they promote it, and they're doing this very well. And we will see what happens in the future.
The only thing I find a little bit painful is that now the head coach from Schwäbisch Hall goes to Surge, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of coaches going with him, and there's a lot of players going with him. And that is a little painful to see. and that's where Austria is different. They have an elf team and they have a national team, which is ultimately that is the best of both worlds. It's crazy,
Yes,
right? So
that's very good. Yeah, yeah, this is
mm,
very good. And unfortunately, in Germany, it wasn't allowed, and now we have that problem here. And at the end of the day, the GFL has the problem at the moment. Now we need to see and to wait how it's going. I feel that the GFL starts reacting, starts doing better, but there are baby steps. It's not that you have a big step. It's just one step after the other, and um, it's a federation system, it's a club system, and that's different.
yeah.
Takes more time.
Um, Talking about moving to the GFL and your new position, the Cologne Crocodiles. Obviously, it's a club with a rich tradition. Going back a long ways. The way you're taking over this team is not ideal, not for the club, not for you. Your preparations have started, and you sort of getting in there. How is it going? I mean, you must be up to the eyeballs with the work.
I can tell you the telephone is not stopping. It's ringing all the time, and I talk with people. Yeah, you said that it's not an ideal timing here. We got the season starts in 7 weeks. Um, I don't know what really happened there, and I don't want to know it too much because I will be focused on the future of the team. I won't be focused on what we can promote there, how we can practice there. I would like to be focused on the coaching staff and on the players, and I think that's a normal way. I took the job. They called me, and I said okay. And like you said, it's a rich traditional team, and it's a lot of members. Great practice facility there, and they playing in a very nice stadium in Cologne. They have a great fan base there. So things are really they set their team, and now they change coaches, and that's a tough situation. But what I did is I started and figure out a coaching staff. I'm talking with a lot of coaches there and try to get a coaching staff together, and this worked pretty successful so far. We have a coaching staff. We can start right away, and now I will talk with all the players. I try to call all the players, just introduce myself and explain them what I want to do, and listen to their issues and their problems. And then we start next week. I will be there, and then we start, and hopefully we get a chance to establish a good team in 6 or 7 weeks, and be successful in the GFL. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, good. So, I don't know if you know, but I was a part of the Kirk Heidelberg's coaching staff in 2000. So I know
Yeah.
about the stadium, know about the fans. So it's good to hear that they have better practice facilities because 23,
Yeah.
23 years ago it wasn't great, but that's good to hear.
Now they're in the fortunate situation. They got a brand new turf field with football marked, and that's really good. That's really perfect there.
Nice. So I follow the Crocodiles on Facebook. I haven't
Yeah.
seen any announcements for coaches besides you. Is that correct?
Yeah, at the moment, yes. We have to sign them all and talk with them. Many meetings and many conversations, and we will have tomorrow our first coaches meeting. And I hope that after the meeting we start and can pronounce all the coaches, the new coaches there and the old coaches there. Um, and from there on we go and start. There are some names going around in the team, but we don't want to promote it or get it to the medias at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Like little, we should have had a podcast maybe a couple of days later. Then we could have announced
They, then
coaching
I
staff.
could they
Yeah.
then I could give you a couple of names, I'm sure. Well, what I can say, because that's really great that you remember probably Peter Heyer,
Of course, yeah.
offensive lineman. I called him and he jumped in. He said, "Coach, I'm with you. I'm in." He's an old Cologne crocodile, and he says, "Hey, we need to do something there." And this was very positive, and I like people who going, "Hey, there's a need. I jump in and let's do it and go." And so Peter Heyer will take over the offensive line, and that's really a big fit, especially for these young players, because Peter developed a lot of youth players. They played college after that. He knows what he's doing, and that's a big it's big positive sighting, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, look, this picture here is in my office, and um, I look at this picture every day. Um, this is Peter right here.
Oh,
I don't know if
Peter is in here. Yeah, yeah,
it's a bit
yeah.
far away,
And
but
and a
yeah,
big help also is Kirk Heidelberg. I'm on the phone with him daily, and he helps a lot too, getting his connections out there and helps me. And he helped me to find already some players there who want to join the team. In addition, right now, and this is really big for us and big help. And you see there are a lot of people in Cologne and around in the Cologne area who really have a big heart for the team, and they support it and they support me, and this helps a lot. It's a
yeah,
big help.
that's awesome. That's good to good to know, man. Yeah. So tomorrow's first coaches meeting.
Yeah,
Now we started off by when did we first meet, but we coached against each other when you were with the Falcons.
yeah.
We expect you to be the offensive coordinator for the Crocodiles.
Yes, I will do this at least in the beginning. I hope I can find one because with the years, I did this all the time that I was head coach and offensive coordinator. But with the years, you found out it's a lot, it's a tremendous work to do both. And with more interest of medias, you get more work as a head coach of organization stuff in meetings and talking with the board members. And there's a sponsor meeting and all that. That football goes a little bit behind your mind, and you cannot have that as a coordinator position. It's impossible. You need to be there, very focused on football, and that's a lot. It's a big point, and um, we have to do this right now. But as soon as we find one, and I'm positive with one of the coaches, we will change that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a
But
lot
it's still
going
the
on.
fun part in coaching is if you're the coordinator. It's still the fun part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's you know um directing traffic as a head coach who doesn't coach a position or coordinate, then you're on top of everything. That's also part true, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, you lose a little bit of oversight when you do one side of the ball. Hey, that's yeah, absolutely. Um, so coaches announced in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Then the work, right? So you have 7 weeks to get ready.
Yeah.
How do you have you made an installation plan? How does that work in preparation?
Yeah, well, what we all do probably as coaches is I figured out we will have about 24 to 25 practices till the first game, maybe a little bit more because we will have camp. I don't know how many practices we have there then, and in these 25 practices we have to install everything, offense and defense. That's a short time period, but I have that in the ELF too. This was also very short to do that, so I'm used of that, and I'm very positive we will install everything in the right way and at the right time, and we will be ready for our first game on the 21st of May.
Yeah, you be ready no matter what, right? You go that date is set. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So 24, 25 practices. Is there how do you how do you plan your practices? You know, how much time is involved? Do you have meetings before practice?
Yeah, yeah,
How do
we,
you do
we,
that?
we will have meetings. Well, this is one thing. What helped a little bit through the Corona, the COVID time, is that everybody gets used to these online meetings right now, and this makes it a little bit easier. They are not, in my opinion, they are not as effective as present meetings, but at least you can install things. You can explain players before practice what they have to expect, and what we practice and what we install, so they have, at least they can have a look over it. Um, and then it's easier in walkthroughs. Just install it pretty fast. Walkthroughs is faster, is better organized, and then you do your regular practice, and you will see how things going. What is interesting, and I'm not sure how to work with that, but I figured out in the last years, even the NFL, college, even all the other sports, um, more and more, because I think teams get more equal in the last years, and more decisions on games will be in the fourth quarter in football. And in soccer also, the last 10 minutes are interesting. Handball, when I watch a handball game, you go like the last 5 minutes is the interesting part of it. um, and this makes me thinking of how much conditioning you put in. I remember in the last years we brought up way more technical details. We talked way more about X's and O's and technicals and techniques, how to block somebody, and we work on techniques and mechanics. But now I figured out, well, maybe the conditioning part isn't too less in my range of what we coach, because when you see, most games are really decided at the end of the game, and this is what a thing I'm not sure about, that how much we will focus on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like when we talk about this too, is it's like, you know, you play 4 quarters,
Yeah,
right? And if you're not conditioned, then you played 4 quarters to only lose the game at the end, where you can't go anymore, right? So
yeah,
the game, you know, let's just say a lot of games are definitely, you know, at least in the fourth quarter, right?
yeah,
So then you got to make sure you last the fourth quarter, otherwise you have no chance. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's one of these things. How do you incorporate that, right? I know if I have my run my system the way I want to, then we just have offenses is no huddle, and we're
mhm,
just flying through practice.
yeah,
Then that's conditioning as well, right? And that's conditioning ultimately in the way that you need to do it on the field.
yeah,
Problem with that is on the defensive side, it doesn't necessarily work that way, because the offense scout team scout team on offense is very different than scout team on defense, right? So
that's right. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So in practice, end zone and sideline film, or do you have a drone? How is your film set up?
I honestly, I don't know yet. I had a drone in the last years, and we need both. We need sideline and end zone for sure, to see everything and everybody, and have a good view to the box. Well, I'm still. I know I'm more than 30 years right now in coaching, and people call me old school, or they call these coaches all the old school coaches. But John, I don't know whether you agree, but with all the X's and O's, with all these great systems and structures and whatever, in my opinion, you win and lose at the lines, and they are such an important impact in the game, that for me it's really important to get a good film, to get a good angle in the box, and see what these guys are doing, and make them better. That's biggest point of the game. You cannot run a route combination on offense when your line is not able to protect the quarterback.
Yeah, it's very simple game. It's like the it's really simple. Is the offensive line is the heart of your football team. If you don't have an
Yes,
offensive line, you have no football team.
you have
Now,
no
on a
football.
defensive side, obviously, on defensive side is ultimately just as important, because if you have no defensive line, then forget about coverage, because
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
nobody that can cover that long, right?
No,
But
no, you
in
cannot cover 30 seconds. It's impossible. You cannot cover it if there's no rush, and even if you pass in every run, if you let them pass the level 1, and the linebackers have to tackle them after 4 yards, it's always a first down after the third down. So the line is so important on both sides of the ball that we sometimes we going over, this is a scheme and this scheme and that scheme, and well, just block it and passes and protect it, and that's the main thing.
yeah, can you go back to that conditioning? Is can you block somebody for 4 quarters too, right? And there's two things that kind of came to mind. You said 24 seconds or 30 seconds. I remember in 2000, there was a go back. If you were you in the GFL in 2000 in the
Yes,
South, Rothenburg?
yeah, in the south,
Yeah.
yes, in the south. Yeah.
You remember the quarterback for the Kiel Baltic Hurricane 2000?
Um, what was his name? Something with T. Do you remember that
Yep.
name?
Yep. Tyler.
Tyler. Yeah, Tyler. Yeah, he was
Tyler
from
Grover.
Minnesota, I think. He was from Minnesota, or wasn't he?
That I don't know, but his name was Tyler Groverstein.
Yes.
And this guy would just run around.
Yes.
It was,
Yes. Yeah.
Casey Terrio, and
Yeah.
in the last whatever years
Braunschweig.
did
Yeah.
that in Braunschweig. But
Yeah.
Tyler Groverstein, we had one play where we timed it before he threw the ball. And it was like insane. It was like, what is going on? So that was one thing I thought about when you said 30 seconds. That was yeah.
Tyler
Tyler
Groves. Yeah, that's right.
Groverstein.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
other
He
thing,
was.
when
Yeah.
you talk
Yeah.
about when I went to Dresden, I think 2013 or 14, whatever it was, they practice or games, there was no end zone film. So I was like,
Yeah.
hold on a second. How do you we have to have end zone film for practice? It's like, how do these linemen get better? Like you can't have a coach an offensive line or defensive line from your sideline view, right? So we
Yeah.
got to tower up and we got to film in the games and stuff, like, and that's the importance that we have, or
Yeah.
that you give to the line. And if you don't film it, then you don't make it important enough.
No, you cannot expect that they become better. You cannot expect,
Hmm.
because there are so little steps or false steps or all that what you have to show them. How often you tell them you did a false step again? He said, Coach, no, I didn't. Hey, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. That's
Yeah.
the only way you can tell them. How often you tell a player, bend your knees? I bend my knees, Coach. I did. And if you watch on film, you get like, man, you stay straight up. It's not a
Yeah.
knee bend. It's just you go down with your body, but it's not a knee bend. And so film is very important and improved the game a lot. I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we have sometimes here in practice we have end zone for the line, but we
Yeah,
usually just have our drone film is
it's very
I
good.
must say it's it's the angle, sideline film is on like more like the 45-degree angle kind of thing. And at first I thought, the depth when you run routes and everything, but if that thing is up and you have your lines are good enough, and with an artificial line field, you never have that problem. So
Yes,
then a drone is quite spectacular, really.
yes. That's true. Yeah, that's really good. Drone is very good.
The
Do you
downside with the
guys have
drone,
also problems that it's allowed to have a drone? In
yeah,
Germany, it's not really. It's difficult. It sometimes it's allowed, or some places, and some places you need an extra license to do it, and That's strange.
Yeah, so we would love to have a drone here for games, but we're not allowed to do that. For practice, we can get away with it, but we can't do it at the games.
The games,
Yeah.
yeah, the same here. The same here.
Mm. This is just switching topics here a little bit. One of the other things that I'm always curious about is, and we've worked in the very similar circles there for a minute, right? So, who are the guys that you worked with, coaches that I've worked with, or that I know that you? Because I
Do you
think
think we have?
that's.
Do you think we have enough time for that?
Well, keep it maybe to coaches that you have worked with and that I have worked with, as in
Okay.
like, so not just knowing, because we yeah, we know a
Okay,
lot of
good.
people.
Right. Well, first guy and well known, unfortunately, is not with us anymore. Is Walter Rolfing.
Mm, yeah.
Walter is probably one or.
Mm, yeah. That's like Walter. So when I was in Dusseldorf, Walter showed up a couple times, come to practice, and like he's like, "Coach, come here. Like I have to tell you something." He was always he wanted to, like, man, like, do you see this? Do you see that? And like,
Yeah.
and you like, you don't mind? Nah, no, man, go look. Whatever you see, don't be shy. He wasn't, but
He was.
but it was yeah, so that's where I learned too that his health wasn't great. Yeah,
Unfortunately, yeah.
yeah.
Well, coaches we know, I'm sure, a lot, but we worked with. Did you ever work with Sandro Cinelli
In the camps, yep,
in
Sandro,
the
yeah,
camps?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Sandro, great
That's a good
offensive
one.
line coach.
Yeah.
Um,
Is he
then
does he still live in the US?
yes, he lives in the US right now. Yeah, he was here for me. He worked for me with the Search 2 years ago. Was my
Oh,
offensive line coach.
no way.
Yeah, brought him over. Great guy and a very good coach.
Yeah.
Then what about NFL Europe, Dick Curl? Did you work with Dick Curl? He was with
No.
the Galaxy. I worked a lot with him. He really learned me a lot of football.
Mm, no. No, that was he was not in the NFL Europe anymore when I came in 2001.
Okay, good. All right. Well, worked with both. It's tough. Errol Siva, Martin Schurer, all these guys from Düsseldorf.
No of them.
Yeah.
Haven't worked with them. I met Martin when he was I'm not sure if he was the offensive coach or the head coach for the Jets. Where they're from, the Jets? Troisdorf,
Troisdorf,
that's right. I
Troisdorf
was
Jets.
I was scouting for the NFL Europe, and he
Yeah.
was with Troisdorf. So that's where
Okay.
I met him, but I know about him from way back. Yeah.
Did you ever work with Stefan Breuer? I know we both know him, but
Now, so Stefan was the head coach for the junior national team in the Netherlands for a minute,
okay.
and didn't work with him, but I was in a consultant role
Okay.
for the league, and I let's call it, worked a couple of camps with him. Yeah, let's say
Well,
that.
see, there are not a lot of coaches we work together with.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure we know a lot, but no, I think that's pretty much what I could think of.
yeah. There you go. Well, look, that's right. The people that we know, then you'll have to have a few breaks in between, because there'll be a long list. Yeah.
Yes.
So going to that. So you start in 82, right? That's there's a few years before I started the game. So you have a long history in the game.
Yeah.
Over all these years with different teams, organizations, do you have like a place where you thought, well, this was actually that was a special place for me to coach?
Well, honestly, I have to say the special place is always the gridiron. And it doesn't matter where it is. I love the game, and I love to be on the field with these young men and young athletes, and work with them, and develop them, and see how they improve and how things come together. I couldn't say the only thing what I have to say is well, I'm originally from the Knights. This is where I learned football. This is always a special place. I live here. I still live here, and it's still a special place in your heart if you start with this team and you see this team and you work there, and you made your way up through this team and through this organization. Um, then I would say Düsseldorf is one of the places I like, because when I started in '82, I was a Panther fan. I got like, hey, Panther, the Panther in Düsseldorf are great, and I never thought that I could be able to coach them one time. And this was big for me, way bigger than the most people there can see. That this is, you start in the young age and you look up to these Düsseldorf Panther organization. They were very good and very professional, and you read all these articles and drove up and watched the game, and at one time you become their head coach. That's something special, I think. But I wouldn't say that I have a special team or whatever. I just love these young men, working with them, and see how they develop and improve, and that you can make out of a group of totally different people in size and in age, and in school education, in religion, and whatever. They're just all over the world, from all over the world, and they can work together, and they can establish a goal, and work for this goal, and hopefully being successful at the end of the day. But this makes me very positive for the world, that I know that we can work together, and there is no place for wars and whatever. They are all made by other people. People by themselves like to work with other people.
Yeah, look, the obviously is part of our job also, right? Is have these group of guys work together,
Yes.
and come together, and play, as one. Yeah, that's part of the, the drive for me is like to work with these guys to
Yeah.
get
It's
them better on and off the field, to make them come together, and that's a special feeling. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
yes.
Um,
I had one time I was sitting with a couple of coaches. You remember probably Jeff Reinbold. Um, he was there, Brian Ward and Bob Nielsen. We were sitting together. So they're big coaches from the US. And then I think Jeff was it. He brought it up and he asked, what is for you guys the most fascinating thing in football? And we were there, and I got like, oh man, I'm the little German here with all these guys. And one coach said it's the belief of a team that, and that's I thought it was interesting. That one coach said it's that you can make players that they buy into your program and they believe in it, then you can beat teams. They are maybe on the paper they have way better athletes, they higher ranked, but you can beat them because of the belief of a group of people. These are things came up, and I was very interesting, and I was the last one who had to answer it, and I was like, oh, whoa, 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 what? But pretty fast I figured out it's just to developing a group of different people every year together to a team. That's for me fascinating every year.
yeah, that's a good one. Is why you was saying is I was thinking this is that how do you define success for a football team? Because we mentioned a couple of times, hopefully successfully. What is success for a football team?
Wow, coach, that's a big question, And I would really see, or I see it really different. Um, and we had that before you start the podcast. We just talked a little bit that we are many years behind the US, and I would say success in the US is a different success that we have in Europe, and may you have in Australia for that. So for me, a successful football team in Europe, Germany, would be developing a program, having, and it starts with facilities, it starts with staff around, it starts with having a marked field, having video, and not only just whatever, have a football program that the players can come and get this high school college feeling of a team, and of this sport. And I think to do this and make this is for me the biggest success, and establish this on the highest level of European football. And this is for me now way more important than some other things. It is not that I don't say I don't want to win, but you can win if you have a program and people buy into it, and then you will be successful as a team, and you will win championships. It's not that you can say, "Hey, this is da, da, da." You can do it with money. You can overpay people, um, but it's not my way to do that. I like it more develop things and have a program, really a program. And for me, in a program is all these things I said: a good coaching staff, having fun in the coaching staff, brought this to the players, and transfer it to the players, and give them this deep philosophy of the game, and then you will become successful. Then you will win games. It's not an automatic thing.
We are pretty much 100% on the same page here, Coach. I have the same thing. Like I haven't, after 2019 Düsseldorf, and the COVID happened, and I haven't gone back since. So I started with a local team, and when they came to me too, one of the things is that, well, we have to have some structure if you want to play football. You have to have, a place where you can have meetings. You have to have a line field. You have to have your practice and games filmed. All these type of things that you can build. So if the structure is in place, all the other parts come together, and it's ultimately the success is if we get the most out of our players individually and as a unit and as a team.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
sometimes you get the most out of somebody or the team and you don't win games. That's possible. That's very
Yeah.
possible.
That's possible. Yeah.
And
Sure. I'm with you.
sometimes sometimes you can even win, but you didn't get the most out of your team.
Yeah.
So that's possible too, right? So there's many different ways how you can define success. But I was curious to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah.
Do you hear my
it's
dog?
different in the
Ted?
States. Excuse me?
Oh, sorry. So do you hear my dog pet bark? He's in the
No, no.
background. All right, go.
No, I haven't heard that. No, but it's different in the States, because there you have all the things around a team. You got the facilities, you got the program, and to be successful there is a different story. And you can also go over there in the States. Well, championships are important, but you have everything, and you have the support that people support you in any way, and you got the boosters clubs and all that. It's still a struggle to get enough money. They all could get more money, and everybody could have more money. But they have at least set up all the facilities, and then coaching is different. Then it's really it's way deeper, and it's different.
Yeah. Look, ultimately, we have two types of coaches: ones that get hired and ones that get fired. Right. So if your last, not this one, but your last position, you were let go. I was the same, with my previous club in Düsseldorf.
Yeah.
That's ultimately, we do get measured on the number of wins, right? Ultimately. which is, look, that's just part of life.
Yes.
They'll find a reason to say, oh, you should have done this, should have done that, and
Yeah,
um,
but John,
and
that's we know this as coaches. We know this, and even it happened one time in my life that I got fired, but um, it is the right decision by the organization. You cannot fire all the players, and you cannot spend way more money that the coach says, okay, we need to fire him and get another one in, and so that's the normal and economic part of the game, that the coach is the weakest spot, and then he get fired, and we bring in another one. And you see that very often, that a coach is very successful with one team and less successful with another team, and he's still a good coach. Then, because coaching is more than just be there, and it is very important that you fit into a board program, into people, and that's important as well.
yeah, it is absolutely 100% right. Is that's why we're also asking about success, right? Um, Bill Belichick and Nick Saban were together on the Browns team and get fired, right? One is the best college coach, the other one is the best NFL pro coach after that, right? So success is not, if you're successful as a coach, that might be, Andy Reid was somewhat successful in Philadelphia, but then he just blows it out of the park in Kansas City, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
and obviously we don't want to compare ourselves with the NFL, but there's lots of ways you can measure success, and
yeah,
winning is part of it. But I think if we can get the most and the best out of our players, then you are ultimately successful, because
yeah.
there is not more than getting the most out of them, right?
I remember one situation when after my career as a national coach, I observed a game many years after that, and after the game, one of my former national team players, he ran over the whole field and hugged me and said, "Coach, it's so great to see you. It was my best time with you." These are also things you go. It's a measurement of you as a coach too.
Mm.
And these situations and these things are really, they are just tremendous for me, or to me, and that's pretty much things why you do this. And I'm
Yeah.
not alone. I'm sure that all coaches do that, because you're working with people, and these people after their career are part of the society, and you worked with them, and you develop them, and your influences with them, and that's big, and it's a responsibility you have as a coach. It's a big responsibility.
I think it's the one of the most important things for a coach is that a player understands that they can trust you, and that your decisions are based what is best for the players and best for the
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
And that's then you start a relationship the right way. Yeah.
yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So shifting gears here again, like, you are really, really heavily involved in football development activities in Germany, right? I was lucky enough to be really early in 2019 to actually, to come to one of the conventions, right? You organize. How long have you been organizing the German convention?
Oh, that's a that's an interesting story. Yeah, I gave it up right now to another organization, because
Right.
well, let's start with a convention when we started it. I don't know when we started it. It was 15, the number 15. Was it in 2009? No, 2021. I think I made my last one. 20 or 21 was my last one. So 15 years before we started it, and I started it at a hotel in Rothenburg with 30 people, with 30 coaches from Bavaria. Uh, and from there on, we worked our way up. We had great coaches there. And what was very important for me was always having a good fit and that the coaches get the most out of it. I know it's important for all the coaches is also networking, and I was at the FCA in the United States as well, and there is networking very big. Um, and I with coach in the UK, I joined one as a speaker, and I like this one a lot. How they made their coaches convention. I always thought, hey, I need to make this a little bit like that. But important for me was always when I got an offensive line topic, I need a defensive line topic, so the coaches can talk about that. Um, so I this was for me very important, and I think this is the basic of the success of the convention, because we got every year more people, and after a while we couldn't get the hotel. We got more than 100 coaches after 4 years in the convention, and then we went to the university in Regensburg. They gave us the chance to become bigger as well. And then we switched the rooms there because we became too big. We got 200 coaches there, and then we got the other university in Regensburg where we hold the convention, and it became bigger and bigger, and without a big of promotion. Honestly, I'm not the social media guy. I was bad in that. And then a former player from me, he was board member of Adidas, and I talked with him, and I asked him, hey, can we do this? Because for me it was important, and what I didn't like was the years before that we had to hold the convention not anymore at the sports university. We had to use the medical part of the university because this was bigger in Regensburg. And I didn't like that a lot. I always got like, oh man, I don't like the medical part. You saw the pictures with the bodies, and I got like, oh, that's not sports. And it was important for me to be close to a sports related thing. And so I was fortunate enough and was lucky that I get the chance and the opportunity to go to Adidas. And then we started at Adidas, and after that, it really became big. And we had the last one I made. We had more than 500 coaches there or people there at the convention, and then we had extra rooms for breakout sessions. So the speakers were there just for 40 minutes, and then they went to an extra room, and people who want to talk more detail could join them there. And this was a great setup. And then COVID hit us, and I got like, yeah, well, I met a group of people here. They called Red Zone. It is Philip Butz. He's probably the main guy there, and he's one of these young coaches, young guys, and I gave him this and said, hey, if you want to do it, and coach, it's hard to say, but these young coaches, it's a new language. And sometimes I thought, well, it's not my language anymore. And it's tough to me, and it's hard enough to stay with the football guys on that language and on that level. And why should I do this on a convention? And maybe people want it different. And so I really gave it to them, and I think they should develop it in a modern style, in a new style, and should do it like that. And they're doing a pretty good job. This year they got around 400 coaches at the convention. It's a different place right now because my connection couldn't help them, but they're doing a great job. I was there this year. I visited my old convention, and they did a great job. They got 400 coaches there. I missed a little bit the big name coaches. There were not so many big name coaches there. And I missed a little bit that, in my opinion, they stepped away from this completely being on the football side of the topics they have. But hey, you have to live with that. If you do something and you give it to other people, you have to live with that. How they do it different. It's still successful. So it's fine with me. It's just, it wouldn't be my way, but I'm not the most socialized guy. I'm more in details, in X's and O's and sports science and all that. So they do it a little bit different, but it's successful and people love it, and it's great.
That's good. So I was there in 2019. I don't know if you remember how many coaches were attending then, but I thought it was huge. It was great too. It was like lots of different topics, and like you said, these breakout sessions and stuff.
Yeah.
Part of my job in the NFL Europe was like do off-season development, and I organized. I think it was also 3 conventions in the Netherlands, right?
Hmm.
That also got bigger, and it's look. I've learned a long time ago that if you have the right mindset as a coach, right, you don't need big names to learn anything.
No. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And
But
that's something probably that obviously we can get excited when an NFL coach walks through the door and he starts talking, but that high school coach that you have never heard of in a city or town that you have never heard of, right? he
yeah,
can have he can, I'm not saying he always has, but he can have just as much insight and valuable knowledge for you as a coach to get better. And sometimes too, it's not learning something new, it's getting confirmation of what you are doing, other people are doing as well, and you're like, well, that's pretty good.
yeah,
Or sometimes like you see something, well, I don't agree with it, and that's possible too, right? Because there's not just one way to do it, but yeah, learning can happen in a lot of different ways. But in an environment like that, you're there to listen, pay attention, and get better at something. And
yes,
I thought
yes.
it was really nice that time that I went.
Yeah, 2019 was really a highlight of the convention. We got more than 400 coaches there, and this year we got the big rooms. We had the big rooms there, and these breakout sessions there. Adidas is just a great facility for that. Yeah, that's right. But I have meant that you see coaches there, the big name coaches, as speakers, also as attendants, because if these guys show up, then it shows the quality of the convention. That when these guys are coming, it's not about networking. It's also about, hey, listening. And even these guys, they listen to a third league coach, and they want to hear what their problems are, because it's important for a GFL coach to know what problems the third league coach has to develop a player. Maybe he hasn't the facilities, maybe he hasn't the equipment to to make him better. So I've thought more that the big names were not there. Chuan was there; it's a very big name, but I missed a little bit these big names in the attendance, not as speakers, just as attendance.
Yeah, yeah. Look, um, talking about big names in European football. Look, is there? I've never thought of this, but so when you just mentioned this, is there a bigger name or more successful European coach than Shiwan Fatah?
I don't I don't know. I know that well, now we have to, if you don't measure it in, or if you don't count it in championships, I don't think. I think Schumann is pretty much the most successful coach in Europe. Kent Anderson was very successful in
Sure.
Europe in championships. Troy Tomlin is very successful. Jordan Newman is successful with the Schwäbischer Unicorn. Sigi Gerke, Sigi from Schwäbisch is he's an outstanding guy. Honestly, he's just outstanding what he developed there, and how long over the years, and um, very good coach, very good colleague is him. And but yeah, you're right. I think Schuan is pretty much the most successful coach in Europe.
Well, we talked about success. How do you measure it, right? But he
Yes,
so
yes,
he Um, Berlin Adler successful.
Yeah,
The Swaco Raiders successful. The
very
NFL
successful.
Europe successful.
Yes,
Um, Austrian national team successful.
successful.
Right.
Yeah,
So there are different clubs, different organizations all together, and then being successful everywhere you go. That's
yeah,
that. Oh, look, it is two things. Is um, I always say, look, I'm just lucky to be a part of all of this, right?
yeah.
And then whatever happens, how you measure success with the championship rings, that so be it. But it's um being at the right place at the right time, but you have to be the right person too,
You
because if
have
you're
to
not
be the
the
right
right person,
Yes.
it
Yeah,
doesn't matter what place and
yeah.
time you're at.
At the end of the day, you have to be the right person. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
um you mentioned yeah, some of these. Oh yeah. This, you mentioned Ziggy. Is he still involved, because he
He's
retired as a coach?
he's retired as a coach, I think, but he's still involved in the organization.
So this is an interesting story. So this is in like the early 90s, right? The early 90s, the Schwäbisch Hall Unicorns organized a tournament or tournaments for a while there. And the club that I was involved with in the Netherlands at that time, in the early 90s, they got invited to go there. But I couldn't make it. I had to work and I couldn't make it. And then later on, this is just like years and years and years later, I saw on Facebook, I saw this old flyer of the teams that attended that, and like
Yeah.
I couldn't remember that it was Schwäbisch Hall Unicorns, and so I see, no, I'm gonna, no way, back in that time, right?
Yeah.
So the team that I'm talking about in the Netherlands does no longer exist, and Schwäbisch Hall Unicorns is one of the top
Top
programs
teams.
in Europe.
Yeah.
So where you go, there's obviously there's a few years, but it's what Siggy has developed there and put together, over a long time is
It's
absolutely
tremendous.
special. Yeah,
Yeah. It's
and
really special. Yeah. I
you
played
you
against him in the 80s. We played against each other, Siggy and me, in the 80s.
yeah,
I remember a friendly game there. At the beginning, they played on the football field of the American soldier base in Schwäbisch Hall. I remember we played there against each other. So yeah, it's a long time, and he's a great person, and he's a very good football coach as well. So
yeah.
that's really tremendous what he built in Schwäbisch Hall.
So you in Rothenburg is, I've been there. It's
Yeah,
tiny. It's small.
yeah,
It's just beautiful. It's like, anybody watching from Australia and you go through Europe and Germany, go visit Rothenburg. It's
yeah,
like you're stepping back in, I don't know how far in time. But that's small with the Knights, and
yeah.
Schwäbisch Hall with Schwäbisch Hall is also, there's it's tiny, right? So um I've always thought, almost like, and it's, Braunschweig might not be tiny, but it's not a huge city. It's almost like it's an advantage to be in a smaller city, almost like you get that a little bit from these examples, at least,
Uh, I don't I don't know. Honestly, we had great rivalries against Schwäbisch Hall. Schwäbisch is about 50, 60 kilometers away from Rothenburg. So we are close to each other, and we were fighting for players during the years. Um, but but at one point, it starts being too small to get something. And if you have a football program with all these things we talked about, like video staff, medical staff, facilities, then you come to a point where a small city, it's tough to develop that. And I think these are the things what really Schwäbisch did very well, that they had a chance in the small town. I think they have 40, 50,000 people living there. In Rothenburg, we had about 10,000. So it's a village. It's pretty much a
Yeah.
village. And we played Division One or GFL football. So it's tremendous what the people in that time did here in Rothenburg till the I think 2004 was my last year, and then they still were in the GFL. So that's tremendous what got developed here. But at one time, probably it's just not, you're not able to do that, or you need somebody who pays the bills. You need just one big sponsor who says, "Hey, I love it. It's my baby, and I pay everything." But then it's really part of a person, and it's always interesting how things going in Europe and Germany. And as to compare it a little bit, I know also close here is Taube Bischofsheim. This is the Olympic facility for fans people who are fencing, and it went down completely because there was one person. He's called Emil Beck. He was the coach and the manager and everything there, and he brought it up that they had an Olympic facilities there, Olympic point there. But after he died, it went down because nobody had the passion and the heart and the power and the energy to build it up. And I think that's a lot. And I have so much respect for these people like Sigi, because how much energy you have to build up a program like the Unicorns in such a small town. That's tremendous.
Yeah. So in regards to that, right? So American football in Australia is not a big sport. Like like you, as you might know, we have Aussie rules football. You have rugby league, rugby union. We have soccer, which is professional sports, right? There's basketball, it's professional sports. They're all bigger, all professional sports where kids who are athletic can go into, right? So there's lots of problems really developing the sport. But in regards from the structure and organization, right? Can you talk a little bit about, advice you could give, people here developing their club or, the sport?
Well, the most important thing, in my opinion, is don't overpower it with money. Spend money in the right directions. Develop coaches, have facilities. Like we said before, program is so important. And if you have that, success will come because people like that. And I think it's way more important than having the money part of the sports. Then you can, if you have all that, then you use it. But what I figured out is in the past, many teams just start spending money for players, get great players, win championships, but they're also gone pretty fast. And this is not what see, let's get back to Schwäbisch. Sigi Gerke and for sure some other people there, they have something for their life. It's just built forever, or for a long time, not forever, but for a long time. And to do this is way more important because we're still dealing with people, and the players are very important for us as coaches. And I would say just develop coaches, because we have still a lack of good coaches in Germany. And I don't know how it is in Australia, but they have you. That's perfect. They have Paul Manera.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah, and get these coaches developed, and even the GFL. They got 16 GFL teams in GFL 1. They got 16 teams in the GFL 2. That's 32 GFL teams. And look how less full paid coaches are there. Yeah. And that's my point. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe we become better and better. But my point is more. And yes, I am a football coach. It's always for sure. You go for your points and your thoughts. But overall, I think it would be a own culture if we would have full paid football coaches. And if you go to the GFL and say, hey, a GFL coach needs to make this money. And I remember I remember Jörg Dressler. He's the manager of the Dresden Monarchs. You know him, and we talked one time about professionalism in the GFL. And we need to become more professional. We need to become more. Maybe we do need to do this and that. And suddenly, at one point, Jörg said, "Martin, just come down. We are professional when we can have a manager meeting on a Tuesday at 11 o'clock somewhere in Germany. Then we can talk about professionalism." And with my time in the search, the European League of Football got like professionalism, and we are more professional, and that's the league. And at one point, I just got mad and I said, "Stop. We are professional when I can call a practice at 2 in the afternoon. But as long as we have to share and find a practice field with a soccer team from the Division 6 in Germany, don't tell me something about professionalism." So that's my thoughts about that. And I think this would be a big point for me. And the advice is just get your stuff done and make your homework first before you think you can spend money for all the great players and good players. Good players make your own players better. That's for sure. It's always the discussion. How many Americans, how many college players? Yeah, get as much as you can because they make your local players better. But you have to have the money to do that. And then give every team the same amount of money, that you have a competitive balance.
Yeah, I've had these talks with Jörg, in my time where he said, "Look, if really one of the things that the GFL should have is every team should have a full-time manager who can organize the structure of the organization." He said, "Like, because if you are going to pursue sponsorship, and it's the same thing as that Tuesday meeting." It's the same thing. Like everything has to be after work, or you have to be in a position that you can take time off. But it's always at the end of an 8-hour workday or in between a workday. And if you have the time to develop your organization as a manager, so obviously there are people or organizations who do that without a full-time manager, and that's fine. Ultimately, I always thought that as a minimum for a GFL team, or you're trying to have 2 full-time coaches on offense and 2 on defense. So as a starting point. Now, if you want to do it and you have more full-time coaches, or you have the finances to do so, obviously great. But if you have a full-time guy that can focus on the line and some of the skill full-time, then you have your position coaches that can help out. But that, to me, it would be a huge thing for the development of the game. So interesting, because I think it turns out that you think very similar to me. Like, it's just getting your structure right in your organization, and then from there on you can develop your organization. If your structures are not right and you start spending money on, hey, this looks good, this is like a shiny little toy, you got a little player over here, but it you cannot grow from there, you can't develop from there. Can a player that comes in is a great player, can he have a huge impact on the game? Sure, he can, but it's not a long-term sustainable solution to growing and developing the game, right? So
and that's also not what I want to coach. Is I don't want to say, hey, guys, we have this little toy, we care about that, even if it's a great show in the stadium, nice stadium, but it costs so much money, and you cannot pay your players. And on the other side, the same time, you ask a full working offensive lineman, shift worker, you have to be at the practice, and you go like, man, I got to make money. I need money to live. you pay this guy so much, and he has nothing else to do during the day, and why should I do this? So you cannot expect that he shows you the extra effort, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And
good
probably
point.
I wouldn't do it. I would go like, why should I do it if he get full paid? Hey, we carry our championships on his shoulders, not on mine.
Look,
That's
uh, Germany doesn't, or GFL, Elf, they they definitely have different problems than football in Australia has. You know, that's just the way it is.
yeah.
Um, um, your legacy as a coach, do you ever think about that? I
No,
find it an interesting
no.
topic.
Yeah, that's really interesting topic. I read that and I got like, well, I honestly I don't have one. I or I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe other people have to say one time. Maybe other people have to say one time, hey, this is the Mark Hanselman legacy or whatever. I don't know one. Honestly, and
Hmm.
I'm coaching. I haven't made any thoughts about that so far. It's always
I look.
going forward.
Yeah, maybe it's more, maybe thinking it this way is that um so at some point you say, like, you know, I've had enough of coaching. I'm gonna do something else, whatever it is, right? And then maybe how would you like people to remember you?
Well, first as a good person, and in football, I hope that somebody sees one time how much energy we put in that, and that it was worth for some people that they go and say, "Hey, coach said that, and this was the right thing, and he always took care of us," and something like that. I'd say wouldn't be
Yeah,
the championships I have.
is a good start, right? That they can say, you know,
Yeah,
Coach Hanselman was a great man. You know,
yeah, was a
he's,
great
yeah,
man. Yeah, I think
he
that's the
could.
most important thing for me, and after that, I don't know. I've never thought about that, John.
You look, it is maybe it is something that in the future you think about,
Yeah,
maybe, you
yeah.
know, on a long bus ride from Dresden going back to Cologne.
Back to Cologne, you can think about my legacy. I gotta go. Okay, what should I? Well,
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
so you've been around for a long time, right? So you've seen a lot of development and growth over that time. And now there is the Elf League, right? Who is is making waves. Let's just to say that, right? They're making waves. Is, where do you see the game in 5 to 10 or 10 years from now?
Well, I wish we could have a professional league, and whether it's the GFL or the ELF, honestly, I don't care. I want that young German players can play American football on a professional level. That they don't have to work during the season. That they can practice together in the morning. I don't know whether this will be there in 5 years, but there's a chance to have that, and I would love that our federation is working for these things instead of uh, talking about bad about past and the past and talking about this things and that things. Development of a league where young men can play the sport in a professional way next to their studying or to their school, like things like that. I'd say I would wish, and I can see that, but it depends on the right people at the right positions to do that. And this would be for me the most and the biggest development in American football. The game developed, but we cannot develop the game like, or we can never compare it with the US league. It's just not possible. It's impossible. But If we would found our American football culture, our American football European way, then I can see that we are in 5 years or 10 years, we have a little professional league, and players can really live out of that at least for half a year, like the NFL Europe. In the NFL Europe, there were 43 players on the roster. We had 43 players. Were there and played for 3 months, I think, or 3 or 4 months was the
It's a 11-week season.
11-week season. Yeah, that's 3 or 4 months, 3 to 4 months with the preparation, so that people get paid in this time, they are insured in this time, have a good medical performance there, have support in every way, and they have a year-round support by a couple of coaches in weightlifting and athletic performance, and then they're going back to their universities and or their work, but they can take off 4 to 5 months and just be there for football. This would I this can I see in 5 to 10 years in Germany. And all the other leagues are still volunteer leagues with a lot of work of people and develop talents. And the main thing, John, and maybe that's a little bit funny for most of the people, but for me, and nobody talks about these people. I push that all the time, and that the German, I talk about the German players. That's probably the same in Netherlands or in France or in Austria. I would like that the federations take time to respect the national players, and the medias also respect the national players. They don't go, they always go like, oh, he makes it to the college. And yeah, how many players pay for college? It's not as, it's different with the Pac-12 or whatever, with all these teams. But I can tell you a couple of names, and they really had great careers in Germany. They won German bowls, they won European championships, and now they're working a regular job. They are part of the society, but they had a great time. And what I miss is just how to respect these people, that you have a Hall of Fame and you go like, hey, yes, he made the NFL. I know players who made the NFL from Germany, but there are also enough players. They're working right now, just regular. They have regular work, and they are volunteer coaches for the U10 or U13 teams. That's big. That for me, it's big, and this would be great if we could really try to find a way, have a Hall of Fame or whatever, and the media's also pick on this people and go like, hey, remember this guy? He won 3 German bowls and he won 2 European championships, and now he's a doctor. What a career! A great career, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's in here in Australia. It's a little bit, we have all these NFL punters, right? And that's where a lot of the media coverage comes from. They're like, oh, this because this guy used to play Aussie rules football, which is the main sport in Australia, right? Then he becomes a punter, and they cover that. We had a few years back, it was a player who went to the 49ers. He came from rugby league, and they cover that. But there is, one guy who is from Melbourne here, Adam Gotsis. Adam Gotsis is now going to play his 8th year in the league with the Jaguars, right? But you hardly hear about him because he has no rugby background. He has no AFL background. Just a guy who went to Georgia Tech and made the NFL. It's no big deal. No big deal. It's unbelievable.
Right.
It's he does something that is say 2,000 players per year are in the NFL some way, some shape or form, and he's from Melbourne, Australia, and he makes it to the NFL, and you see his face on TV here or coverage, you hardly see it, and I guess I understand because there is no people don't know Adam Gotsis. Who's Adam Gotsis? This guy who was a punter for one of the teams here. Everybody knows this guy, right?
Yeah.
So I understand, but you're right. Like that is also part of, you say, professionalism, but it's like being a grown adult sport, right? You have
Yeah.
all these things in place, and
Yeah.
it's hard.
It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're sort of reaching the end of our podcast here. Like we're look, I could go for a fair bit longer. It's about an hour and a half. You have GFL games to win, right?
Yeah.
Um, Look, if you ever find time to do a quick catch up, maybe in season, that I would really appreciate that. You don't have to say you can or you can't right now. I don't want to do it like that, but it may be just a 15 20 minutes. Hey, how's the season going? That would be awesome. Sure. If you can find the time. Is there anything that you want to share? Or
well, hey, I'd love it. I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk with you again, and it's great to see you again here online. Hope I see you soon in Germany again. I probably will not come to Australia in the next days, but it's great, and it's an honor for me to be on your show here. And the podcasting is getting bigger and bigger, and I hope I can give some of your listeners a chance to get a view of American football here in Germany, and a little bit of my life, of my coaching career. And if they liked it and they think it's interesting, it's great. It's a great job what you're doing there, John, and you spread the game over the world, and that's helpful for all the players in all the sports.
Yeah, I think one thing that we as coaches definitely have in common, we're passionate about the game, and we want to see it get bigger everywhere. And look, I'm trying to help coaches go to Europe, try to help players go to Europe. I want these guys to have a better football experience than what you can get in Australia. So when they come back, they can become coaches and they can help us out. But I want more people to play on a higher level here, and part of that is there's a state tournament here, and there's the national team. Unfortunately, this whole thing with the national team is been of a shit show lately with IFAF and tournaments. But look, Australia needs to have exposure, because there are plenty of good players, but
yes,
the infrastructure is not great here. But when you take some of those good guys from who play here right now and you put them in the GFL, I've done it, and they are great players in the GFL. So but unfortunately they have to travel halfway across the world to have that experience. So it will be a while before we get to the GFL level in Australia, but there's a few people that working very hard to do so, and can't wait to get it done. So
yeah,
thank you, Coach, for your hour and a half here, because we're over an hour and a half. And much success in your upcoming season.
Thank you very much, Sean. And we stay in contact. Yeah, see you. Bye.
All right, see you.